Yeah, Justin's been putting his own money out for that white paper. It's amazing the commitment to see people. It's a $15,000 piece, and he just put up most of the money himself because of his own beliefs. It's really impressive to see. Next, we have Luke Bruner here. He's the treasurer of CCB and the manager of Wonderland. I'm sure you all know him. He's not a quiet personality. We're out there, so we'll turn it over to Luke.
Hey there. What stands out to me about everything I've seen the last few months is it's interesting. A lot of folks here seem to have a story of how they got into the room and how they got into activism. And I find my story is what stands out to me is similar to other folks' story, which is I recognized there was a problem and I was looking for a way to get involved. It wasn't clear to me what the next step was, but I knew I needed to take a next step. So I work as the business manager at Wonderland Nursery and also part of the GA, which put on the Golden Tarp Award. And I live here in Soho. And I recognized the need to get more politically involved, and working with Matt Cuman and some others, that gave rise to California Cannabis Voice Humboldt. I'm the treasurer of that organization. And we have some great team members here today. Jason's here today. Richard Marks is here today. I can sing their praises. Paul is here as well. And Thomas is not currently here. And what we started doing was organizing this informal process of social networking that we have. It began to slowly give rise to a formal process of social networking that disorganized and informal groups became organized versus clubs and neighborhood meetings and watershed meetings. And it gives rise eventually to political power. It gives rise to rearranging the relationships of power so that they're fair and equitable. In Humboldt, and I agree with Tim, it's kind of surprising to me in a real sense that Humboldt got organized before Mendocino. Humboldt County, my estimate is 80% of our economy in Humboldt is from cannabis. We got $4 billion a year, matches a lot of different data points, it matches the sheriff's estimate, it matches a moderate view of the Budwig report from 2011, matches about what our soups will say it is. We have a $5 billion a year economy. But this is an economy that's entirely dependent upon cannabis, and the cannabis community is entirely not a participant in the social and political order. So we started rearranging those relationships of power, and the most important step is not the exactness of the negotiation. We're working now on writing a Humboldt County ordinance. There's some drafts of it here. It's a way to get farmers legitimate, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, as the day goes on. But that very first step is the one that has the greatest impact. It's the step of coming out. In the gay rights movement, you had figures here and there in history, and Harvey Milk is one that had a disproportionate impact. And he had a particular phrase he would use, and it was, come out, come out, come out. That what fundamentally changed the way your society, your own community, San Francisco, viewed you. There was a time when San Francisco was not a gay-friendly town. It was called the 1990s, when the police department was still beating gays in the alleyways and shutting down their clubs. Well, there's parallels to people that are getting military raided in Humboldt County and Mendo and Trinity. So we began this process of community organizing, and that's how I'm on the panel today with really other people that have taken that brave step and said, I'm going to live completely unashamed because I have nothing to be ashamed of. Thank you.
Next we have Ellen Komp. She's the executive director of Normal. She's one of those wonderful people who've spent the last 25 years dedicating their life to this movement and helping us bring it forward. And she doesn't get nearly the credit she deserves for all the work she does behind the scenes and for our culture.
Thanks. I'm actually deputy director. I don't do executive stuff. But I also lived in Humboldt for 9 years, starting in 2002, and I worked for the Civil Liberties Monitoring Project here. People may know me from then. Part of my job was to call KMUD and tell them that where the helicopters were, as well as lobby for, at the county level. And I was appointed by Roger Rodoni, actually, to the medical marijuana task force in Humboldt County that came up with the ordinance that's existing now. We were appointed the day Gallegos beat back the recall campaign. Many of you remember those times. And different political times, and CLEMP was a great organization. They started as COG, but actually the Citizens Observation Group that went out and observed the helicopters, and CalNormal, which I've been involved with since '92, joined a lawsuit that they filed to back off the helicopters. They were landing everywhere they wanted to and doing anything they wanted to. And in fact, this year Mendocino was the closest I've seen to those kinds of activities going on. I worked with CLEMP, I worked there, but it wasn't until Prop 19 was on the ballot, actually in 2010, that people started coming out with the what's after pot, LAT meetings that Anna Banana organized, and COMEP came out of that, and Emerald Growers eventually, and so I was around during those days, and that's the first time I started seeing people coming out, so I'm really glad to see that movement carrying forward and people getting more involved at different levels. I think the county level is very important, because what I did after I left Humboldt a couple years ago, I've been working more closely with California Normal on all the different county ordinances. I just spent a week in Butte County and I was a week in Shasta County. They had ordinances, cultivation ordinances on the ballot this November, which did not carry. Same thing happened in Lake and Nevada County. And, these are places that are just starting to get organized and people starting to raise the dialogue there. There's so many issues. Water's such a big issue. I'm seeing so many parallels between what's happening there and what's happening here in the Emerald Triangle, where I used to think was, kind of the only place it was happening, but that's not at all true. I'd like to see more of these economic analyses, these surveys that you're talking about, and our director, Dale Geringer, is a PhD economist from Stanford and has done a lot just simply getting some economic figures out there, because I think if we really look at the economic devastation that could happen in California if we enacted some kind of legalization like Colorado and Washington, large warehouse grows. Illinois, I think, is legalizing 32 grows total for the whole state. 21, sorry, for the whole state. That is not at all what California Normal wants to see in California, and it's not what we're fighting for. And we're working in coalition with a bunch of other groups. Krista Nevedoff from EGA has been on the board from day one. The unions are on board, the NAACP, and all the activist groups, to come up with something that's going to be very different in California, because we want to protect the cottage industry, we want to protect personal cultivation. We're talking about some kind of registration fee, maybe starting at 1,000 plants, $1 a square foot, going up to 10,000 or 20,000 plants. We're throwing out figures like that to start talking to people. We've been your lobbyists in Sacramento since 1972. We fought off countless bills to take away your driver's licenses or make it a DUI to have any amount of THC in your blood. And now we've been working on these regulation bills in the state, and our CalNormal, when we finally pulled our support from the Correa bill we worked on all last year, was a big factor in why that didn't happen this year, because we can turn over 3,500 emails, on a bill because of the network, which I hope you all are a part of or will become a part of. Go to canormal.org and join up, as well as, participate in all your local things. You have to be active on 3 levels: local, state, and national, because those are the 3 levels of government that are impacting you. And I'm glad to see everyone here today. I'm going to just listen and learn more about what's going on here. Thanks.